Yes, good. Okay. Okay. So, welcome to my live. I'm a couple minutes early tonight. So, I do my lives, they're scheduled above, and then every other day that they're not scheduled, I just turn up whenever I've got time. So, few funny things have happened today with messages, and if I get time, I'll comment on some of them. Um, One of them really struck me as funny. Anyway, so while we're waiting, I would love to know where you're from and how old your kids are, or you can just jump right in and ask parenting questions. Um, just wanted to say thank you for help with parenting my kiddos. Are you a client or a follower here, or both? Oh, you're very welcome. I'm assuming you're just a follower on here. Usually clients email me. So, but you're very welcome. I love what I do. I feel very fortunate to be able to love what you do and helping people at the same time. It's just win-win. I just love it. Okay. So I'm just getting all my notes ready here. Okay. So parenting questions, let's get going with that. If you go in the link above, you'll see all my courses, the free behavior board, the big course is the boot camp course, and then coaching with me one-on-one. Sometimes people will ask me a question and I have to assess the situation. So, and I hate doing this. I hate saying that's coaching. That I'm not on here to sell my coaching or anything, but sometimes I need to assess a situation. So they'll ask like a question and it's a big question. So I'll say, yeah, that's coaching. So sometimes I can't help. I can't answer all questions on social media. Okay, so parenting questions. New York State, 2.4-year-old triplets. I love your content. I've worked with triplets before. That's a handful. Actually, the parents I worked with, the mom had a whiteboard system up. Every single feeding, pooping, pee, sleep, everything was written down. She was so organized, and she was just brilliant with that. Boca Raton, Florida, with a 19-month-old son. Welcome, toddler. Most people on the lives have toddlers. Nashville, 2.5 and 1. South Carolina, 2 and 3-year-old. Do you know why I figured out why most people have younger children? I specialize in teenagers. Most people who specialize in teenagers are older, like me, and they're not online. You have to go through doctors, or like I get a lot of referrals through doctors and psychologists and stuff. So that's with the teenagers. But yeah, if you're looking for help with teenagers, they don't tend to think to go online as much because there's not a lot of experts out there who work with teenagers. Most parenting coaches work with younger children. But I mean, I work with them too, but my specialty is teenagers. They're my favorite age. So yeah, I figured that out just earlier. But why is it mostly young kids online here? Like the parents online. But whereas in coaching, it's a lot of older kids. Follower. Oh, okay. Follower. I have 2 boys, 4 and 19 months old. Nice. That's a nice split right now. Like you've just got one toddler you're dealing with. So you've got a preschooler and a toddler. That's nice. My son screams really loud when he's having tantrums. It triggers me. I can't help you if you're struggling with overcoming this stress and everything. It's like saying, I want to lose weight, but I keep craving ice cream. You just have to battle through it. It's one of those things. I can't help you with that. But yeah, once you get good at dealing with this, it's always going to get harder before it gets easier. It's just the way it is. Everyone wants the rainbow, but I say you got to be willing to go through the storm first. Because when your kids see you changing, they're going to fight back 10 times harder. When they think you're trying to take charge and be a leader, they're going to come at you fast. Like it's just going to happen. So you have to understand that and realize it's just temporary. Whenever I'm working with families on coaching, I say, everything we're doing is temporary. Like I know it's hard, but it's temporary. Once you get that respect and you're set up as a leader, maintenance is easy. Getting respect is hard. But yeah. Oh my goodness. Hello from Washington. Kids are 9, 8, 6.5, 5, 3. Oh my God. 9, 8, 6.5, 5, 3, and 3 months. Wow. So you had them fast initially and then you slowed down a little bit there. Wow. Good for you. I think the biggest family I ever worked with in coaching was, I think, 8 kids. And it was just systems, setting up systems. It was, we had to get really organized. Jamaica, welcome. Kids, girl 11 and boy 7. Excellent, welcome. Australia, Gold Coast 3. We used to go down there a lot. My kids are raised in Brisbane. We used to go down to Dream World and all that stuff. That's like theme park alley down there, down the coast. So, yeah. Newly started following you. Welcome. It's been great. My son is 5 and tends to cry a lot more when I ask him to do things. Yeah, I cry when people ask me to do things I don't want to. So yeah, he'll learn. He'll learn. If okay, when you're a leader, as long as you mix it up with fun, but when you're a leader, it tends to calm them down. People say, "My kid's so emotionally, so highly sensitive." Set yourself up as a leader. You're very calm, you're very predictable. When you're disciplining, you're very predictable. But the rest of the time, you can be crazy and have fun with them all the time. But when they act out, then you're that leader, right? The leadership stuff, you can still be friends with your kids and goof. I was crazy, mother. I was insane. I used to chase them around the house with underpants on my head all the time. I mean, I was nuts. But if they ever acted out, those underpants would come right off my head and I'd say, "Excuse me." "Oh, sorry, mom." They liked that fun. I used fun as leverage. That was my power. They liked having a fun mom. And when I worked with kids, that's all the leverage I had. I was fun with kids and I was funny with teenagers. I used humor. And I would just sort of take it away just for a little bit. That was their punishment if they were acting out. Lisa wasn't so much fun if they were acting out. So yeah, you got to mix it with fun. So, often when kids are highly sensitive and cry a lot, maybe you're not having enough fun with them. Check out the behavior board. It's completely free. It shows you how to have fun with your kids. It's really about bonding and connecting with your kids because you're on that behavior board too. So like your consequences, if you break the rule and you yell, if you yell, you always put no yelling as your rule. If you break that rule, then you have to play hide and seek with them for 10 minutes or something like that. Not with teenagers, obviously it's different, but yeah. Your nanny of I'm a nanny of 4, 2 and under. 4 kids, 2 and under? Wow. 4 kids, there must be twins in there or something. Sir, I can't quite figure Huntington Beach. Huntington Beach. That's hard to say. Mississippi, 19, 14, 10, and almost 4 months. Wow, that's a big split. So that's good. So you got the older kids so they can babysit. Okay, separation anxiety and 4-year-old, how to help. Yeah, so you drop them off somewhere and they have a fit. Just do the dump and run. I did that with my kids. My daughter, especially, she was like Velcro with me. So the first place I ever left her was in the gym daycare, and I just did the dump and run. She learned. She was fine. But initially, because she was so little, she was like under a year and a half year old when I started doing that. So I would only leave her for like a minute, and then I'd come back in, then I'd do it again because she was so little. But at 4, just do the dump and run and always end with okay and be cheery. Okay, I'll see you later. I'll see you at 3 or I'll see. So end with when you're going to see them again. When my kids first started school, it's a little bit emotional for them. And so I just did the dump and run. Then I went in the car park and cried in the car all by myself. Never let them see it. School's a big deal. It's like my babies are growing up. Okay. It was funny. I was going to tell you this funny comment. I was reading some of my messages, or I can't remember comments or whatever. And someone had written down, "I disagree with you 100%. I have 4 kids, all grown up, and they did just fine." And I wanted to answer, well, duh. There's not one way to parent. It's like saying, there's one way to diet, there's one way to talk, there's one way to walk. There's lots of different ways to parent. I'm sure I just teach what I know, but just struck me as funny. I don't answer that negative stuff. It was funny. Like, duh. Yeah. Like as if I think my way or the highway. I'm not a right fighter at all. There's lots of different ways. I'm sure I just teach what I know. That's why I don't critique other people too. You see that people will turn up in my feed and they teach. They're my competition, I guess, right? And they'll start arguing with me. I would never do that. Like it's okay that we're different. That's just fine with me. You want to teach that to your kids too. Right fighting is not a very I don't think it's a very likable quality to think your way is the only way. And but yeah, you don't want to raise right fighters. Like there's just one way to live. There's just one religion, one color, one whatever. I mean, it's a very sort of a very narrow way of looking at the world. Yeah, there's lots of different ways to live. That's just fine. Okay. Sorry, I'm still getting used to these lives here. I have to scroll, whereas on TikTok it scrolls for me. So I have to stop it from scrolling, but here I have to get it scrolling. So I know I'm behind with the questions. Australia, 2.5-year-old and 8-month-old toddler. Ugh. That's my least favorite age to work with in coaching because you got a baby and you got a toddler. It's just so physical. Like there's a lot of stuff I'd love to tell you what to do, but you can't always do it because you got a baby on your hip, right? So it's probably my most frustrating coaching clients for me. because I have to kind of, well, you can only do so much if you're breastfeeding and you got a toddler who's tearing up the house. And I raised my kids in Australia. That's where they were born. Okay, so toddler tantrums from the minute he wakes. He's been okay, so he's, yeah, I don't know. If he, and then you say the minute he wakes, he's been like this since birth. That's like you're in the red zone. Like what I mean is your problem's bigger than anything I could answer on here. If you want to work, I could hopefully figure that out and maybe guide you along the way with coaching. That's one-on-one coaching. Check it out in the link if you want me to work with you. But that I can't answer that here. I'd have to figure out what's going on. I have to assess the situation. What is the best tip to lead a 2.5-year-old? They are pure chaos. Okay, I had a lot of leadership skills with my kids when they were toddlers. One of the big ones was when I said something, it happened. I was when their dad said something, it might not happen, but I was very definite when I said, and they started to learn from a very young age. So another leadership skill is potty training. Potty training is a really good bonding exercise and you're in charge of it. It's all fun. Potty training should be fun. It's a party, literally. My daughter read the course. I have a potty training course. My daughter read it and she goes, I don't remember that. Well, she was 2.5. And she goes, it was a party. And I said, oh yeah, party hats and everything. It's all fun. That's part of leadership skills. I bonded with my toddlers when I bond with play. I played in their world. Okay, I'm going to read you my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Oh, I organized stuff now. I can't find it. Oh, shoot. Okay, here we go. These are my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. And I did all this. Child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2 is set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Number 3 is enter their world when you play with them. It's part of leadership. They start to look at you differently. You don't go to the nail salon with a 2-year-old. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. When you enter, the better you get at entering their world and play. You watch them play and play like they play. I was very good at that. It was just sort of, that's how I bonded because I had a lot of experience with kids before I had my own. Then number 4 is stop with the mini therapy sessions when you're disciplining toddlers. It's all about consistent corrective actions. If they hit with a toy, you say no, and you take the toy away. Put it away where they can see it, but can't touch it for a while. Consistent corrective actions, because they learn through repetition, not words. Those mini therapy sessions, they are just the bane of my existence in this business. They're a disaster. I know they're trendy right now, but that was invented for the mom. Let's talk about your big feelings and big emotions and regulate your emotions. A bunch of garbage. Anyway, I know it's trendy, but it's just garbage. Okay, and then the last one is stop trying to figure them out. Toddlers are not figure-outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They have one marble and some tumbleweed floating around in there. Imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years, and for the first year, you're a potato laying on a mattress. They have no context of the world yet. They might even go like this and smear poop on the wall. For a toddler, that might be completely normal. So don't try and figure them out. Just go with it. Okay, but I would say the best way to start setting yourself up as a leader is through fun. And when you say something, it has to happen. Like, don't lie to your kids. That, like, parents call it inconsistency. It's really lying. That if you say you're going to do something, if you do that, I'm going to take that away, and then you don't take it away, you just lied. That's how kids interpret that. Oh, so you don't mean what you say. Believe me, if I said something, it was happening. Like my kids, you know how they go through that when they're like toddlers? They start to struggle on the change table. And both my kids tried that initially with me, gave up pretty quick because I said, you're getting changed and that's it. And I held them down and changed them and they would just lay there. With dad would say, okay, we're going to try and follow what I was doing. Okay, we're going to change you. And then he'd let them stand up and get a toy. And so, but it's okay. So they only need one leader. I was the leader. He was the pleaser parent. There usually is a leader and a pleaser, by the way. There's never an old-fashioned authority and a leader, though. They don't mix. They're all in oil and vinegar. But yeah, a leader and a pleaser, so long as the pleaser defers to the leader. Like my ex-husband used to say, if the kids were pushing him around and I wasn't, they would never do that with me around. But if they were trying to push him around, only when they were little, they'd try. And he would just say, do you want me to tell mom? That's all it took. So you only need one leader. And the pleaser can use that leader as leverage. So it just shows you're on the same page. I didn't want to mess the kids up. I knew what I was doing. I said, don't discipline them. I know what I'm doing. I had a lot of experience before we had kids. So. He was a good dad, but discipline was my thing. That was my specialty. Okay, good question. How does a parent who isn't very fun leverage fun? I enjoy quiet time and solitude, but my toddler is adventurous in that way. Okay, I'll tell you a cute story. I was working with this mom and she said, I don't teach the way I was because I have my own personality. I'm a total doofus, like a real goofball. I'm very silly. I find silly stuff. I'm 63 years old. I still have a lot of toddler in me. My daughter says, no, you just have a sense of wonder. I get really excited by things. And I've always had that, right? I get really, oh, I want to try that. If anyone suggests anything, I'm like, oh, that sounds good. And then they'll say, no, try that instead. Oh, okay, I'll try that. I just always get excited by things. And toddlers are like that too. But I don't teach that. I don't teach how I relate to kids with the fun because that's my own personal style. So anyway, I had this client and she goes, and then she asked how I got respect with kids and how I used fun. And I told her and she goes, I'm nothing like that. And I said, well, let's find what you're good at. She was a brilliant storyteller. She said to me, I like telling stories. And I said, well, tell me a story. So she incorporates people into her stories. She told me a story about herself and it was like 10 minutes long. And when she was done, I said, all I want to do is crawl into your lap. It was the most beautiful story. It was just so soothing. So you don't have to be goofy fun like I was. You don't have to wear underpants on your head and all that stuff. But you just have something that's just really, you can bond with your kids. They don't need this craziness all the time. It is more in their world. Yes, it's a very quick way to get their attention. But you find your own way. Some parents, that was one mom, she loved telling stories. That was her gift. She actually, I think, was an author too. So she was really good at storytelling. Another client that I had was, music. Some of them are into music. Some of them are into art. So find what you like and something that you can share with your children. There's usually something. If not, then it might be coaching. Sometimes I have to work with parents to find something. Tell you a cute story. I was working with this mom and I can't remember the ages. It all gets mixed up after a while. But anyway, so her rule on the behavior board was no yelling. And when she yelled, then she had to play Lego with her son for 30 minutes if she yelled. And she said, and she'd never played with her son. He was older, like 8 or something. She just didn't play with her son ever. And that was the problem, right? He didn't feel like she really cared about him. So he knew she loved him. But, if you don't want to be with your kids, it hurts their feelings and they tend to act out. So anyway, I said, okay, that's your consequence. You play with him for 30 minutes. So the next session that we had the following week, she turns up and she's crying. And I said, what is it? And she goes, I didn't play for 30 minutes. And I said, and I was like, oh, what'd you do? And she goes, I played for 3.5 hours. She just had never played with him before. She goes, he was like 8. He ended up crawling into her lap. And she goes, it was the most fun I've ever had with him. So she goes, it wasn't that she liked the playing with the Lego, but she loved what it did with their relationship. So yeah, find what works. There's always something. If you can't find something, you can hire me for coaching and I'll figure something out. Anyway, it was so cute. I could tell you millions of stories like that. There's always something. Yeah, 2-year-old won't stop pulling cat's tail and cat gets angry. You're going to hate this. I've actually recommended if you can't keep a pet safe and unharmed, rehome them. I don't know what else to tell you. I've actually worked with people and they have given away pets because of that. You have to I'm a huge pet lover and there's no way I would allow my pets to be harmed. There's just no way. So either keep them separate or rehome the cat or train your 2-year-old out of that. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but yeah. Mm. My kids they grew up with pets. I've always had pets. It's the first time in my whole life I haven't had pets. But I'm older now. I got a grandchild coming, so I want to be available for the grandchild. Anyway, so I've always had pets, but my kids just knew I had birds and dogs when they were little. And they knew you never pick up a dog. They weren't allowed to pick up the dog unless they were sitting down and I put the dog in their lap. So they just grew up knowing that. And yeah, so you got to teach. You got to take charge. If you can't control them and teach them how to be gentle with pets, rehome the pet. New Jersey, 13, 10, 4, and 3. The babies will not sleep in their own bed. Okay, check out my Bedtime Battles course. That's only been out for a few weeks now, and it goes in. There's 2 different parts to it, how to get them in bed and how to keep them in bed. So it's 2 different parts. Is the behavior board something I can download? Yeah, I'm on your website, but I see week 1, how I said. Oh, it's on the newsletter. If you actually look, it'll turn up somewhere. It's the newsletter, and the behavior board comes with the newsletter. You have to sign up to the newsletter, and then you get the behavior board. It's 2, attachments. It's just 2 attachments. One is the instructions, and the other one is the sample of the behavior board to show you what it looks like. Whenever someone says duh, I always say, please use words. Okay. I'm sure I've used duh. And I probably will in future now that you said that. A little bit rebellious. That's who I am. Oh, excellent, Lydia. Okay, just want to say thank you. That was my grandmother's name, Lydia. Just want to say thank you. I took your biting and hitting course and have seen so much positive improvement. Excellent. I'm happy to hear that. I'm very particular with those courses. There's my mini toddler courses, and I just put enough in there that you'll get the results. What I did was that I first started making those courses, they were huge, and I just shrunk them down into what you need to hear. Plus, I didn't add any extras to that because then that would lead to another, too much. So, yeah, those courses are very niche. And I've got 4 of the toddler courses. The big one is different. That's the boot camp course. So I'm glad to hear that helped. Excellent. Okay. My son used to do this. Anytime I ask 2.5-year-old to leave fun place, they have massive meltdowns, screaming, crying what to do. I don't know. My son did that. I just carted him under my arm. I just had a message on that or a direct message on that. Um, oh, someone just said, do tactics work for foster children as well? Yes, they do. It's just leadership. It's leadership. It's done with, you mix a lot of fun with the discipline. Discipline's tiny part. The connecting and the bonding is the leadership part. That's where it really comes into play. Anyway, but yeah, just put them under your arm and if they're going to scream and have an absolute fit, let them have a tantrum in the parking lot. But I wouldn't, if they're somewhere fun and they're disturbing people, then I take them out to the car, put them in the car and let them have the tantrum. Then you ignore them. But yeah, they just have to learn. It's very hard for some kids to learn, why am I leaving the fun? I don't want to, I want to stay here. And they just go nuts, right? They're either going to have kids either have tantrums or they don't. They're born that way. There's 4 things that they're born to do or not. I'm going to read it out. I don't know why I keep looking for my list of it because it's not even a list. Or did I? I can't find it. Anyway, there's 4 things that you're either born to do or not. One is tantrums. You're either born with a temper or you're not. Like I don't have a temper. I never had a tantrum. Same with my daughter. We like to reason everything out. We're quite calm that way. You should see my daughter and I have an argument. It's like, well, I don't agree with that. And she goes, well, I guess that's one way of looking at it. Yeah, I don't quite see it that way either. Like, that's how we fight. It's pathetic. Anyway, okay, so tantrums are one thing you're either born to do. Climbing is another. Kids will either climb or they want. They're the adventuresome ones who climb up a wall and end up at the ceiling. Then there is, what's the other one? Hitting. They're either going to hit or they're not. Shoot, what's the other one? And runners. Runners is when they don't look back. They just take off in public and they might run in front of a bus. So yeah, they're either going to do those things or they're not. My kids, the only one they did was my son had tantrums. But yeah, my daughter had none of that and he didn't have any of the rest. You're either born to do that or you're not. So some of them are just going to be more feisty than others, right? My son didn't have a tantrum every time we left somewhere fun, but that was what set him off. If he was going to have a tantrum, that was what did it. Leaving somewhere fun. Well, if you put a toy where they can see it but can't touch it for punishment and they touch it, well, then it doesn't make any sense. You said you put it somewhere where they can't touch it. How are they touching it? You know what I mean? Like put it somewhere where they can't touch it. Yeah, there just wouldn't be anywhere they could touch it. Follow up to potty training. Do have an age or readiness cues that you look for. Oh, okay. So in other words, when should you potty train? I just did a video on that. Did I post it? I don't even know if I posted it yet. Maybe not. Anyway, but 2.5, pretty much all kids can learn how to potty train at 2.5. But some of them are 1.5, some of them are 3, but 2.5 is a really good age. My daughter, I think I could have trained a lot earlier, but I like to potty train in one weekend. I just did it in one weekend with both kids. My son was actually one day. No pull-ups, no night diapers, nothing. It's a whole process. I have a mini course on that. But yeah, they'll start to maybe waddle funny or tell you that they need changing. Yeah, but 2.5 is a pretty good age for most kids. But you see, my daughter was like that. She didn't like having a full load on her. but she wasn't ready to potty train. So just because they don't like it doesn't mean they're ready to be potty trained. She was probably 1.5, and she didn't like it. And they were in cloth diapers too, my kids. And when they had a full load, it was hanging down around their knees. I mean, oh, geez. Sorry about that, but you've all got kids on here, so you're used to that. Okay, how do I get my 4-year-old to listen? Do what I asked the first time? Okay, so check out the boot camp course. That teaches you how to be a leader. When you're a leader, like I only asked once. I would never repeat myself. I just wouldn't. So yeah, something needs to be done. I just say it once. And so check out the boot camp course. It teaches you how to be a leader. We're never fixing kids. We're fixing and teaching parents here. You lead, they will follow. The course goes 3 to 12 years old. It's all about your leadership in 5 weeks. Okay. So you got a runner. They're running outside. They're running away from you. Put them in a harness before you go out. As soon as they start to run, you say, no, clip them in. And you keep them clipped onto that leash or whatever it is for the whole rest of that outing. They will have a fit, but that's okay. That's the learning process. Everyone's afraid of the scene, the fit, the tantrum. That's the gold. That's where they're learning. They're fighting you because they don't like it. And you have to take charge and say, this is what's happening. If you run, you get clipped in. They will connect it. They'll figure it out eventually. Maybe not the first time. It's going to get ugly. That's okay. Every time a kid, like my kids really didn't push me ever because they knew there was no point. But whenever I've worked with kids, and some of them have even threatened, they say, if you don't let me do this, I'm going to have a fit. And I'm like this, bring it on. Like as if that's going to work with me. So yeah, you can never be afraid of a scene. If you are, they're in charge. So yeah, just clip them in and be prepared for it to get ugly. But they'll learn. It's part of your leadership, right? Do you have an alternate to timeout? I think sometimes they need to cool off. Yeah, but it depends what they've done. Everyone, whenever I talk about timeout, what do you do instead? Everything I'm talking about is the instead. So check out the behavior board if they're 3 and over. If they're under that, I have toddler courses. I have a big boot camp course. Everything I teach is what you do. Those don't do timeout. I don't even, like, that's just something you don't do. But it's like, what do you do instead? I got a million answers to that. I never know how to answer that because that's all I teach is what you do instead of timeout. I hate timeout, diversion, and the countdown methods. Can't stand any of them. What is the best that's not timeout for a 4-year-old? My daughter just pushes it and screams until she gets. Check out the behavior board. That's free. And then you can buy the boot camp course if you're interested. It teaches you how to be a leader, teaches them how to be accountable. I just did a video. I don't know if I posted it. I just did a video. I did an interesting one. I think I posted it. How to handle family gatherings. We got Christmas and Thanksgiving. The Americans have Thanksgiving coming up. Do you know in Australia they don't have Thanksgiving? That's where I raised my kids. It was like, what's missing here? Oh yeah, Thanksgiving. What was I gonna? Nah, I lost track of it. Never mind. How do you handle refusing naps? Well, I'm questioning. Someone just asked me about that on a message or something. And I'm questioning, do they need it? Both my kids stopped regular napping at 12 months old. They had lots of accidental naps, but they stopped regular napping at 12 months old. So I'm questioning whether or not they need one. I don't know how old they are and if they actually need one. It's a bit of a difficult transition. They might be cranky for a few days, and then they'll learn to sleep more at night. My kids were good sleep. Well, they didn't actually do a lot of sleeping anyway. They just weren't sleepers, but they were easy kids to be around, so I loved it. But yeah, I'm just wondering if they even need the nap. Can you watch the course anytime? So if you've bought one of my courses, they're open. I don't plan on closing them down. So yeah, there's not a time limit on the courses, especially the big one, the boot camp. It's from 3 to 12 years old. That's like a reference manual. I'd like you to be able to look at that for the next 9 years, right? And I'll keep adding to it. I've got plans to add videos to all my courses soon as I go along. So, and then you'll see that update if you've got a course. Do you know why I don't like putting videos on my courses? Because before I upload them to the course, I have to look at them. I hate watching my own videos. Drives me nuts. I can't stand the sound of my voice. It's all whiny. And so, yeah, that's why I hate putting videos on my courses. Because I have to feel like I have to look at it before I But I should just do it and put it on there anyway, because I don't look at any of my videos on here. I just let them put them up. Agony watching myself. Agony. Okay. Okay. How do I manage my 10-year-old's temper, stubbornness, and dominant personality? Let me think for a second here. 10-year-old temper, stubbornness. Okay. I'm just going to take a swing at this. Do you focus on winning? Do you have a competitive household? I'm betting you do. Yeah, and I'll look for your it's I'll look for your answer. Yeah. Do you have a competitive household? Is winning important in your family? And then I'll answer that. Otherwise, you might want to check out my boot camp course. It sets you up as a leader, or you might want to hire me for that because you're going to be heading into the teen years soon. So you want to get that sorted out. My 3-year-old, when mad upset, she throws whatever is next to her or sits on the floor. Is she tantruming though? I have a course on that. Toddlers are not really 3, but it's still that age for this course. Toddlers who hit and bite. You could actually check that out. That might be for you. Because I don't know if she's tantruming or not. Tantrums are different. If they get aggressive when they're tantruming, that's different. The other courses, they just are aggressive just to get their own way. There's a difference. So yeah, I have a couple of courses. So you didn't answer. I'm curious to know if you're a competitive household. Do you know? And then I'll explain why, if you are. Okay, my first is 3, my second is 2, and recently, oh sugar, I have to move over to TikTok now. Yeah, I have to go to TikTok because I've got it scheduled on there. So if you want to join me on TikTok, I'll be doing the next half of this. I do all my lives. I split them in half now. So sorry, I got to go over there now because I'm running late. So yeah, okay, so we'll see you over there. I know I'm on YouTube still. I just got to get my TikTok live going. There we go. Okay. Just waiting for people to turn up. Mhm. Hello. I'm a couple minutes late. I'm never late, but well, obviously I am. I was just on my live on Instagram because remember I split my lives in 2 now. So I was just got caught up in what I was saying and that's why I'm late over here. So sorry about that. Hi, nanny here. I don't teach nannying. Some of the stuff can be used, but yeah, I don't teach nannying or teaching or child psychology or any of that stuff. I just teach parenting, but a lot of stuff can be used by nannies and teachers. But yeah. Okay, so let's just get going with your parenting questions. If you've come over from Instagram, welcome here. Uh, bu- 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 Okay, how to teach a 2-year-old to keep their hands to themselves. Are they being aggressive or just all over people? You just say no. Consistent corrective actions. Every time they do something that you don't like, you just say no. And then you kind of just meander away. So you're not walking away from them, but you're just sort of, well, you're just doing your business. You want to look like it didn't even happen, sort of thing, really casual. But yeah, it's consistent corrective actions, but you got to do it every single time. Every single time. If you do it 9 times out of 10, kids remember the things that they'll remember the time you didn't do it. I don't know why, they just do. Funny story, my son was a teenager and we were laughing at all the dumb things I've done as a mother. And I said, and we were cracking up. And then I said, what about all the great stuff I've done? And he went, what? They remember all your fails, not your successes. All your losses, not your wins. Just say no with no explanation. The explanation is the action. Toddlers are not about words. They're about actions. So when you say no and you push away, that is the explanation. So they hit or whatever, and you say no. That is the explanation. I know the big therapy sessions or mini therapy sessions with toddlers are super trendy right now. They're just ridiculous. They're not about words. They're about actions. That's why I say if you want to stop something, a behavior with a toddler, it's consistent corrective actions. That is their language. You know what the stupidest thing I've ever seen is when they say, you get down on their level and you say, use your words. I just almost cursed when I said that. I get so angry at that. That is so patronizing. When you say to a toddler, use your words, actions are their words. Like how patronizing. Oh, I hate that. Use your words. So never mind. I get fired up with that one. Who invented that? So stupid. Okay. Hate the 30-minute dispensation. What does that mean? Okay. How should I handle 5 and 3-year-old constant bickering about the silliest things? They get so mad. Okay, there's a million different ways to deal with that. But what I do is if they're fighting over one thing, like a PlayStation, let's say, as an example, take the older, say, okay, no fighting. Take the older one out with you in the kitchen. Just talk to them for 5 minutes or whatever, and say, okay, no fighting. You come with me for 5 minutes, and then you're not discussing it. That's it. That is the discipline. It's all done. Then you just keep them in the kitchen with you while you're doing dishes or whatever. Then always use timers, by the way. Then the alarm goes, 5 minutes is up. Say, okay, have fun. Don't say don't fight again. As soon as you say don't fight again, you're encouraging it. It's just so stupid. You know why? Because people do this all the time. Don't fight. Make sure you don't do that. It's just so awful. It would be like if you got a speeding ticket, the cop said, now make sure you don't speed again like you just did. It's rubbing it. It's just nasty. It's nasty. So anyway, yeah, say have fun. The next time they fight, take the other one up for 5 minutes. Back and forth and back and forth. They'll get so sick of doing that they'll either whisper fight, and who cares about that, or they'll just stop fighting and just play with their own things. I want to be friends with your account. I don't know what that means. No, I got kids on here. Do your parents know you're on here? Blah, 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 blah. Sorry, I'm having a hard time reading because I can't see against my skin. I'm trying to read in the black of my top because the words are white. My almost 2-year-old's favorite word is no. Do I ignore? Yeah, just ignore. Yeah. Okay. 6-year-old talks back, not listening or taking me seriously. That's not a quick answer. I have a whole course on that if you're interested. It's my boot camp course, teaches you how to be a leader in 5 weeks. Check it out in the link above. But yeah, that's a whole course. Takes a while, especially at 6. You've had 6 years to prove you're not a leader. It's going to take a bit of time to prove you are. So yeah, but 6 is still really young. So I get a lot of clients who say, oh, my kids have been in charge for 3 years. They're 3 years old. Is it too late? I work with teenagers. It's never too late. It's just harder. The older they get, the harder it is, the longer it takes. Okay, 2-year-old fights bedtime. Okay, bedtime is a whole process. I've got a mini course on that called Bedtime Battles. It's in the link above, and it teaches you how to get them to bed and how to keep them there, because it's 2 parts. Some people have problems with one or the other, but not both. But some people have problems with both, getting them to bed and keeping them there. Do you recommend any books for toddler moms? I've never read a book on kids, so I haven't got a clue. Um, Also, but one thing I'm saying, if you're going to take any advice from someone, there's 2 criteria because parenting is all experience based. This is all experience based because a lot of my clients are teachers, principals, child psychologists, and I couldn't do their job, by the way, but they struggle with parenting. Parenting's different. It's personal. Okay. So these are the 2 criteria. If you're going to read a book on parenting, make sure that the person has these 2 things. They have to have finished the job. Have they parented and they've got raised adults? Do they know where they're going? Because if what's working with a toddler right now might backfire down the road. They don't, if you haven't finished parenting, how do you know what's going to work in the teen years, right? So everything I teach, I go backwards. I'm trying to get you through those teen years. That's my specialty is teenagers. So, okay. Anyway, so, but yeah, that's the one thing. They have to have finished the job with their own kids. Have they got adult kids now? So, and then the second one is I didn't learn a lot with my own kids. I got respect when they were tiny and sailed right through the teen years. So they have to have worked with hundreds of other kids. I've worked with kids in hospitals, psych wards, schools, everywhere, daycare centers. I've worked with hundreds of kids. So they have to have that huge experience base. So those are 2 things. Just look up the author and see where their experience lies. It is experience based. Yeah. There's no PhD in parenting. Someone said, Well, haven't you taken any courses on parenting? There is no PhD in parenting. There is no master's degree in parenting. Because a lot of my clients are child psychologists and they struggle just as much as a lot of people do. So, yeah, but I couldn't do their job either. That's a specialty. It's experience based. Okay. So a lot of what happens, and I don't critique people like who are teaching parenting, but think about it. If someone only has experience with little kids and they're teaching what you do with little kids, how do they know where it's going to go? How do they know if they're correctly investing in tomorrow? It, it it's kind of like taking advice, financial advice from someone with $10 in the bank. They don't know. They haven't. Yeah. How do they know where it's going? Because that's a big part of it. Often, what works with little ones, I have to repair that later on because I know what's trendy out there right now, and I know where it's going. But yeah, they have to. Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of other old people out there like me who have got all that experience. So just look it up. If you're going to buy a book, look up the person who's written it. Okay. 16-month-old banging his head on the floor when not getting his way. Well, common. It's really common because they don't understand head trauma, concussions, hospitals, death. They just don't understand that. So they're going to do it. They'll eventually learn, hey, that hurts. I won't do it again. But they don't tend to think before they act at that age. They don't have that foresight. They don't have that impulse control. That's why they do it. So get the foam helmet if it's that bad and you can't get to them before they start doing it. Or if you know something's going to upset them, be real close when you know they're going to throw themselves back or bang their head, and put a pillow under them, or just say no. But yeah, and you have to physically restrain them. But yeah, it's just a stage. They'll eventually learn. Cracked skull doesn't feel good, but yeah, they might not learn in time, right? I'm just gonna say I got this really funny comment or a message or something, I don't know, on one of my videos on Instagram, and I thought this was so funny. I don't know why. Things I love it when people come at attack me. Just, I love it. Means I'm shaking things up, and I love that. So, but anyway, the person wrote, "I disagree with you 100%. I finished raising tons of kids, and they all turned out fine." And I'm like, "Well, duh. You mean there's more than one way to live?" Like, as if I think my way is the only way. I just thought that was hilarious. Like, as if there's one religion or one color, one skin color, one way of parenting. I just teach what I know through my own experience. But it just struck me as so funny, like as if I don't realize there's probably other ways to parent that work just fine too. I just thought that was funny. Yeah, and if I don't resonate with you, move on, go find someone else. If you hate what I'm saying, you're never going to do it anyway. So why waste your time? And if you're trying to upset me, yeah, I love all that stuff. So teenagers dating, woohoo. Okay, that's tough. I don't talk a lot about that on here because people don't ask. I don't get a lot of parent teenagers. Okay, here's the thing. It depends on their age. If they're old enough that they can go out on their own, that's different. I would say 16 and up. They can go out, they're driving and all that stuff. You just have to hope that they're going to come and tell you everything before they do it. That's the secret. My kids told me everything before they did it. So, we talked everything through. They told me everything. I didn't always want to hear it, but anyway. So that's the key is you want to know, work on your relationship with your teenager. Never, ever in a million years tell them not to date someone. They will guaranteed they'll run away with them. Like that's just the way it is. It doesn't matter what your relationship's like. You just make sure you don't tell them who to date. And also, if they're younger, though, if they're 13 and they want to date someone, say, okay, sure, you can go on a date. Here's the rules. Parents have to drive you somewhere. When you're going out, it has to be with a group. It can't just be all couples because they're all going to couple off, right? So it has to be single people in there too. And it has to be somewhere public and they can't go to the movies. I know lots of teenagers who got pregnant in the movies. So lots of stuff happens in the dark. And so, yeah, you just have these rules. Make sure you know the family, whoever's driving them, or you drive. I was the driver. I specifically bought a minivan so I could be the driver. So, yeah. And then also a little secret here, not a secret, but if you've got your kids and friends in the car, I'm crazy. I'm always very talkative, but I know enough to just shut up and listen. They end up forgetting you're there. And your kids don't forget, but the other kids do. If you're not talking, they think that you're distracted by what you're doing. And just my ears are going like this and listening to everything. I knew all my kids' friends. I knew what was going on. My kids told me everything. So yeah, But yeah, never tell them who to date. Good luck with that if you do. Have you ever dealt with night terrors in children? Yeah, I actually have. I'm going to be doing a video: night fears, shadows, etc. Yeah, I have. Night terrors are a little bit different from nightmares and a little bit different from just being afraid of the dark. They wake up screaming like they're just afraid. I suggest you use something like one of those sound machines. They are loud. You know, the heartbeat sound machines? Boom, 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 boom. They are loud. Get something like that. It's very soothing to them. Or the galaxy lights or something that is sort of distracting in their room. And when they wake up, it wakes them up quicker, because night terrors, they don't tend to wake up quickly. Oftentimes, now I don't quote me on this, but it's been my experience in working with kids, is that the night terrors often are accompanied with sleepwalkers because they don't wake up quickly. So they do tend to be in this nightmare. If they've had a nightmare, they tend to still be living it even when they're awake. They don't tend to wake up quickly, and the kids who don't wake up quickly often become sleepwalkers, or could potentially. That's horrifying. I knew someone as a kid who was a sleepwalker, and they had to lock them in at night because they'd walk right off on, right in the middle of the road. But anyway, so yeah, I've worked with kids who've had that. So the sound machines, gee, they're noisy. Yeah, just look it up. 7-year-old has become very resistant and difficult over everything. He's so angry, especially when told no. Well, what I'm questioning here is, has become. Is this really recent? If so, something must have happened. Has something happened that upset him? I would look into that. You said has become, or has it been a gradual progression? Anyway, work on your leadership skills. That's all. You always want to be a leader anyway. So work on your leadership skills. I have my boot camp course if you're interested that teaches you how to become a leader in 5 weeks. So check that out. But yeah, if it's just happened, maybe something's happened. And don't worry, it might not be something huge. Like sometimes I'll say, something's happened at school. That's why that's going on. And parents will freak out thinking that they've been molested or something. So it's not always something big. It's often something really little. A new kid might have entered their class and they're getting all the attention, or their friend has moved on to them. So you never know. My 15-month-old has been waking up every night screaming, and she won't let me see that. That might be coaching. I'd have to investigate that. I don't know why. Is that new? They just started doing that? I'd have to figure that one out. So yeah, I'd have to assess that situation. If you want my help, check out coaching in the link. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, yes, that's true. Our pediatrician said night terror and sleepwalking, talking go hand in hand. Oh, I didn't know that. That was just through experience that I've found that. Oh, okay. Oh, so I was right. Geez, first time for everything. Okay. Okay, my 16-year-old son seems distant and bothered or something. I'm not sure what to think. Yeah, you'd have to hire me for that. I'd have to figure that out. But I'll tell you a funny story. My son was about 15, and he was like, we were like best friends and chatty and everything. And every single morning I'd go, morning, sweetie. And he'd be in the kitchen. He'd go, morning, mom, and we'd laugh. We were like best buddies. Then he turned 15. 15 is a real age. 15 is usually when I'm hired with boys, it's 15. Like if it's teenagers. Girls 12 to 16 is the most common age when I'm hired to work with teenagers. But boys, it's just turned 15. That's when hormones are kicking in and their voice lowers and everything. Anyway, this one morning, my son was 15, and I go, morning, sweetie, like every other morning of his whole life. And morning, mom's all cheery. He turned around and went like this, morning, mom. It's like he just turned into a man overnight. It freaked me out. His face looked different. He wasn't this bubbly kid anymore. Hormones kicked in. So I said to him, are you okay? Like as time was progressing, he just wasn't the same, right? He was turning into a man. So I said, are you okay? And I said, and he hung out with a wild crowd. He looked wild, but he wasn't. He was he used to call himself the straight arrow. All his friends called him the straight arrow. And he used to say I could never get in trouble because you were always sitting right there. And I said, sweetie, that was your conscience. Anyway, he was a great kid. Anyway, so one day I decided that he was really moody and he wasn't talking to me as much. And I just got it in my head. He was doing drugs. And I said, are you doing drugs? And he goes, no. And I said, okay, fine, but I'm not stupid. I've worked with a lot of delinquent teenagers. So I thought, I'm not stupid. He must be doing drugs. He's so different. So anyway, sure enough, he goes to school. I ransacked his room, tore it all apart, looked under drawers for drugs. I was looking everywhere. And of course, I fell asleep because and he comes home. I'm on his bed. I'm covered, and his whole room is a shambles. And then he opens up his door and he sees me and he goes, "Well, aren't you a sight?" And he walked away laughing because I always told my kids, I respect your privacy unless I'm worried about you. Then there's no rules. So anyway, I thought that was funny. But I love cleaning and organizing, so I completely organized his whole room after that. But anyway, so yeah, I don't know if it's something going on or maybe it's just all the hormones and he's just becoming a man. I don't know. If you want me to help you with that, you'd have to hire me. Teenagers are usually 5 sessions, by the way. But yeah, so that was how I reacted with all my experience, and I just freaked out and ransacked his room, which he thought was pretty funny anyway. So I never found anything. And plus, now he's 34 now, and he's got his first child due soon. And but yeah, he never was in any trouble. I didn't know. Well, my almost 2-year-old doesn't know how to self-soothe, right? Leading to horrible tantrums, right? They don't know how to self-soothe because they have impulse control. They don't have, maybe I should calm down here. They don't know how to self-soothe, and you can't rush that. If they are prone to having tantrums, they'll outgrow them by the age of 3 to 4, somewhere in there. And they will, when you get good at ignoring them, they will start to connect the dots. Wait a minute, this gets me nothing I want. So you'll minimize tantrums in duration, frequency, and intensity. But it's a slow process. You can't regulate them. They have to regulate themselves over a period of time by you ignoring the tantrum. They'll eventually learn this ain't working, and they'll just stop. As by the time they're 3.5 to 4, they only do what works. Having a tantrum, if there's no payoff, nothing, they just stop having them. Yeah. 15-year-old is having issues mentally and has been vaping behind my back. You'd have to hire me for that. That's not a TikTok answer. So yeah, if you want me to work with you with that, teenagers are my favorite age. They're my specialty. There's no guarantees with any of this. I mean, it's really tricky. What I do with teenage stuff is I work on your connection, your bond with them, so that they will tell you everything. But it's a slow burn. It's not a quick fix. Okay. It's your relationship with them is our focus. Yeah, toddlers are just crazy. I'm going to give you my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers because there's nothing wrong with toddlers. They're just crazy, but it's your interpretation of them, your expectation, which is out of whack. Okay, so now these are my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Number 1 is child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2 is you have a toy rotation system going so that they're never bored. Number 3 is you connect with them through playing in their world. You don't connect with a 2-year-old at the nail salon. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. They start to look at you differently when you enter their world. That's part of your leadership stuff. Number 4 is you stop with the mini therapy sessions when you're disciplining a toddler. All the talking about feelings, no, that's garbage. It's for the mom. It's not for the child at all. They're about consistent corrective actions, okay? Because they learn through repetition. They don't have impulse control yet. So words are useless. Number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. They're not figure outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed floating around in there. Imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years, and for one of those years, you were a potato laying on a mattress. They have no context to the world. They don't understand things yet. So don't try and figure them out. They're cute as a button, but they're all feet, no brains. They are actually my least favorite age, toddlers. Not at home. I love them at home, but taking them out, I could never relax. They're all feet, no brains. They're walking off cliffs and into traffic. I mean, you just got to watch them constantly. So I'm a worrier, so I was always worried about them. Like I remember I'd go to play groups with friends and they just let their toddlers run around the house. I didn't know what kind of house, like I'm big on childproofing. So I didn't know if there were knives around. So I never got to socialize. I was always chasing my kids around the house. Okay. I have some issues with my teenagers. How do I hire you? Go in the link above and it has coaching in there and just check that out. And you just hire me online and then I'll connect with you in 24 hours, give you forms. And then within a week, usually we've set up our first session. And yeah, teenagers are usually 5 sessions. If you can only manage one is better than none, but 5 sessions usually is what we need. And the first session or two, the first session, you're probably not going to like at all. I always warn parents with that because if you've got something that you're trying to fix with your teenager, we don't even get into that initially. It's all assessing, and then we have to do some damage control. But yeah, So yeah, it's fun. They're my favorite age. I love teenagers. The thing is that once you understand teenagers and you know how to work with them, they're the most fun to parent. I loved it. I love parenting teenagers. Toy rotation system, you asked about that. Okay, what I did with my kids is I'm kind of more of a minimalist and I'm very organized, but I had open shelving. I didn't have toys where they were all thrown into a basket or anything, and I don't like playrooms because they're just messy, or they're just like too much stuff. So, but they had like each of their bedrooms had um, bookcase, and then I only had a few toys on display at any given time. The rest of their toys were all boxed up. Maybe once a week or once a month, I would do a toy rotation. I'd say, okay, put these in a box, and now you can pick up 5 more toys. But I always kept the big stuff out, like their books were always out, anything that was soothing, like a cuddly toy they liked, that was always out. Lego was always out. The big blocks were always out. But I sort of ran my home like a school, though. We'd say, okay, block time, we do activities. So they were allowed to have blocks everywhere, but nothing else. Like they would never have Play-Doh and blocks going at the same time. Like it was like, okay, if you want to do Play-Doh, put all your blocks away. So they learned from a really little age. I talk about this all the time, the as soon as method. You know, if they wanted something, I'd say, great, let's pack up everything, then we'll do it. And they were happily cleaning up all the time. They didn't even know it. So I'd say, do you want to do Play-Doh? Okay, pack up all your Lego. And they'd pack it all up. But if they were working on something long-term, especially something like intricate like Lego, that could be out in the living room for a whole week. So it was all laid out and all, that was different. But yeah, basically it's just minimalizing everything. And it tends to help them with focus. Also teaches them responsibility, how to clean up. And it's easier to put 5 toys away than 50. And yeah, I don't like playrooms. I don't like them. I wanted my kids with me. I wanted them right here all the time. I wanted to be part of their lives. Playrooms are over there. Go and play. Go get lost. I just don't like them. It's just my own I'm not saying don't have one. It's just my personal thing. I wanted my kids with me. They're only little once. I didn't want to miss anything. Okay, good. The as soon as method has been working well. I've seen improvement with my 4-year-old. Yes, sure. They say, can I watch TV? Sure. As soon as you've packed up your toys, as soon as you've put your dishes in the dishwasher, as soon as, like, sure. It was always a positive. That's why I never told my kids what to do. I waited till if there was something I wanted them to do, I waited till they asked. Oh, can we have a snack? Sure. As soon as you pack your toys away, as soon as you put your laundry away. So yeah, they didn't think, oh, okay, sure, sorry, Mom. Yeah, it was no big deal. Nothing was a big deal. Everyone used to say to me, people who didn't know me, used to say, oh, you're so lucky, you got the easiest kids in the world. But people who knew me, I put the work in. Like you got to earn that respect. You got to earn that. You got to work for it. Once you get it, maintaining it is easy. Getting that is hard work. But yeah, I put the work in. How do you do that with 17-year-olds? Okay, if you're I go up to about 25 years old. If you've got a 25-year-old, it's your kid, they're living with you and they're somewhat financially dependent upon you, I will go up to 25 years old and help you get respect, mutual respect going. It's tricky, but I will go up to there. 17, they're almost adults. It's trickier, but we work on your connection, your bonding, and your listening skills too are really important. I'll read you my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. Did I even write that out? I'm always looking for my notes, and sometimes I don't even have notes. I'm like, thought I had a note on that. Okay, my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. Number 1 is you listen to understand and show empathy. You do not listen to gather information to lecture with. If they want your advice, they're going to ask for it. They already know what it is anyway. So just listen to understand. I call it silent listening. You listen and then you shut up. How hard do you think that was for me? I'm a talker, but I know how to deal with teenagers. So I listen and then I shut up. Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds interesting. And I just shut up. They'll tell you everything. They just do. You're going to become a safe place to land. They're going to tell you everything. Okay, so listen to understand, show empathy. Number 2 is negotiate pretty much everything. Hey, I want your dirty clothes in the hamper from now on. What do you want from me? So you negotiate pretty much everything. Number 3, parenting teenagers. Number 3, don't sweat the small stuff. Save your energy for the big stuff. You're going to need it. Okay, so don't sweat the small stuff. If they do something stupid, but it's not a big deal, I would say something like this. Well, that was stupid. Wait to hear what I did when I was your age. Like, it's not a big deal. We all make mistakes. The road to success is paved with failure. We all learn through making mistakes. Allow them to do that. Don't make it a big deal. Say, yeah, you messed up. That was really stupid. But when I was your age, wait till you hear what I did. We used to laugh at me all the time. If you're not making fun of yourself with your kids, you're missing out. My mother used to say this to me. She goes, "How do you do that?" And I said, "Well, she was a leader, but she wasn't goofy. I was really goofy." And she said, "You're chasing the kids around the house with underpants on your head, and yet they respect the heck out of you." She goes, "How do you mix the two?" And I didn't know how to answer that. That's what I teach now. I teach you how to do that. You want to be fun. You want to have fun with your kids. I had a blast raising my kids. It was the most fun I ever had. I had all that pesky respect already cemented, and then I just relaxed and enjoyed my kids. We had a blast. I remember at school they used to say, "All we see is." I had a blue Rav4 when they first came out. I just got my dream car. It was this little cute little Rav4, and they said, "All we see is you and your kids driving by like this," because we're all laughing all the time. Like we just had a blast. What are your top 3 tips for parenting 3-year-olds? Yeah, yeah. I actually have a note here. My top tips for parenting 3-year-olds and up, and I haven't done it yet. Where is it? Yeah, I have a note to do that, so I'll do that. Top tips for 3 to 12-year-olds. Yeah, I'll do that. I would say listening. Your number one parenting skill when they're 3 and above is listening. You listen to understand, show empathy, and you teach your children how to be problem solvers. Like my mother, if I went to her with a problem, I was little. I can remember this. "Mommy, something happened at school. What should I do?" She always said the same thing. "Well, I don't know. You're a smart girl. You can figure it out." And then we'd talk about it. I always thought I was solving all my own problems. She was just there encouraging me to come up with ideas. She would say something like, "That's a good idea. Gee, what I might have done is this." And I go, "Oh, that's a good idea." She never really told me what to do. And I didn't do that with my kids either. We just sort of discuss things. So don't judge them. Don't be a know-it-all. I hate that stuff. That me, I know everything. I'm the boss. I don't. Leadership is different from the authority. The authority, my way or the highway. I know everything. I never was like that at all. I always told my kids I'm as dumb as a doorknob, but I got experience and I'm the leader. But yeah, I never set myself up as being smarter than them, but I was the leader for sure. They respected me, but I respected them too. And I listened to them. They took, well, believe me, they didn't hold back. They told me exactly what they were thinking all the time. And you want that. But they were always respectful about it. So listening is really important. I would say that's the number one parenting skill is listening. When you get good at it, they'll tell you everything. You'll be a safe place to land. They won't be able to shut up. They're going to tell you everything. It's really good. I remember when I was working with teenagers, they'd say, "I can't believe I just told you that." And I'm like, "Yeah, I can," because I'm really good at listening to kids. Not so much adults, but kids. Because I'm not a leader with adults. I'm a leader with kids. I'm very much a follower in my personal life. I don't like to plan anything. I don't like to be in charge of where we're going, what we're doing. I'm very much a follower in my personal life. But with kids, no, I'm a leader. How do you know the balance between listening and advising? Well, you're going to have to give me an example. I could come up with a million of them, but listen to understand and show empathy. Yeah, that would be frustrating. Yeah, I could see that. Then they'll come and say, "Well, what should I do?" I'd say, "I don't know. Let's figure it out together." And then go back and forth talking about it. I would always start with, "Well, what do you think you should do?" But if it was something completely new to them and they were young, I'd say, "I'll tell you, I remember when I was a kid, I tried this." I was always trying to engage them in coming up with their own solutions. Oops. Okay. I'm all done now. I've been on doing my live now for an hour. I did Instagram and then TikTok for a half hour each. So I got to get going. Anyway, if you want to know more about my business or my courses, my free behavior board, my coaching, just look in the link above. That's all there. And I'll be back again tomorrow. I don't know what time. I'll be scheduled. If you look in the bio, in the link in the bio above, it'll tell you my scheduled lives. But anyway, thanks so much for joining me. And yeah, check out the link if you want to know more. So we'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye now.